My name is Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and today we're getting the latest update from Kuya Silver, which trades on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the symbol KUYA. Joining me once again is Kuya's President and CEO, David Stein. David, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Megan. My pleasure.
So, David, for those who are new to the Kuya story, could you please give us a brief introduction to the company and your Bethania and Silver Kings project?
Sure. So our flagship project is the Bethania silver mine in Peru. It's a recent past producer that we have been, developing and de-risking for the past few years, and we put it back into production this year. So we are currently in the early stages of a ramp up there that's going to take us into middle of next year. But it's very exciting. We're producing there. We're ramping up to 350 tons per day at Bethania. And we think this is just the first stage in a multi-stage. You can see on this slide here on the gold line at the bottom, or the yellow, that this is going to be a multi-phase project that will ultimately be a much bigger mine through both exploration and production expansions. But we're essentially on the first step of a staircase that's going to take us to I think a world-class silver mine in the next few years, and it's very exciting times there. So I'd encourage people to watch out for that project, and as we deliver more news on that. And then we have our project that we put out a press release out yesterday. We are actively exploring in the Silver Kings project, which is in the cobalt silver mining camp of Northern Ontario. Very famous mining camp that was one of, if not the biggest silver producers in the world in the early 20th century, and has really seen very little work, despite some silver bull markets that we've been through in the last 20, 30 years. Very little work's been done, and we're there, and we're not to pat ourselves on the back, but I think we've had probably some of the biggest success, maybe the biggest success from an exploration point of view in the camp. And we're really kind of cracking the code to finding more silver there that a lot of people wrote off a long time ago.
Now, before we talk about yesterday's drill results at Frontier Northwest target at Silver Kings, could you quickly give us an overview of this target and any historic work in the area of the project?
Yeah, so our first zone that we ended up drilling when we started our 2024 drill program, which is still ongoing, by the way. We still have quite a bit of drilling left to do there. We were drilling what we call the Frontier Northwest target. So this is a target that we have developed over the last year from our own geological work, mapping, sampling, surface work, etc. And it's in the what's known as the Silver Center mining camp. So it's about 20 kilometers south of Clear Lake area where we are also drilling, and it's an area that had some of the richest silver mining back in the early 20th century, and we saw some very interesting cobalt mineralization on surface, which we think is going to lead us to silver mineralization at depth. So that was really the premise for drilling this target, and we're very happy that we've been successful at drilling here, and finding really exciting relatively wide cobalt silver vein mineralization at depth.
Now, this week, the company announced your first set of results from the 2024 drill program at Silver Kings. For our listeners, could you walk us through some of the results and the significance of the new discovery?
Sure. So the biggest hole was that we announced is a new vein that we're calling the Hammerstrom fault vein. And so there's a big structure that we identified at surface which we call the Hammerstrom fault. It seems to be mineralized, and not all faults are, but this one is. And here you can see, the cobalt mineral is not the most photogenic mineral because it's metallic, but it's not as shiny as native silver is. But you can see there, more than 20 centimeters. That's just pure cobalt mineral, which is there's a couple of cobalt minerals that might be interspersed there, but that alone is going to be probably 10+% cobalt just over that interval. It's a massive rich zone. And of course, there's a wider zone around it that gives us a bigger tonnage, lower grade kind of situation, which is also got quite a bit of cobalt and a little bit of silver and some nickel as well. So it's a very very exciting hit that we had there to start off this program, and really again it more than just the one intercept itself. It really, I think, really nails home our exploration model, which we've been successful at drilling these buried veins, now in 3 different zones, 3 different potentially completely different silver cobalt deposits, and that's very exciting that our exploration model seems to be working. So here you kind of see the fault zone, that some of the geophysics that we did in those bright colors, and the fault zone that we're drilling at depth where our holes are. And we hit it in several spots. Obviously, the 6.5% cobalt was the biggest hit, and again, that's very common with these veins. Is they're going to pinch and swell. There's going to be secondary structures, whether it's a jog in the vein or an intersecting vein where things really blow out, and you get the wider and higher grade mineralization because there's essentially just more open space for the metals to deposit. And those the old timers called chutes. So really, a lot of even though you have these veins that can go many hundreds of meters in either direction, you can see here we've got the vein defined over several hundred meters. It's these chutes that will carry quite a bit of the actual economics of any particular mine or single vein, and so we most likely hit a chute with that whole hole 7, and that's obviously very exciting to be able to do that from surface.
So David, how does this new vein discovery compare to the width of mineable veins within the historic cobalt mining camp?
It's similar. So what you will typically see in the cobalt mining camp is when you get into one of these chutes, you'll typically see, sort of a foot or so, what the old timers would call a foot. So it's kind of 20 to 30 centimeters where you're going to get just massive mineralization. And it could be silver, it could be cobalt. Remember that the cobalt and the silver actually occur in the exact same veins, the same structures. And when you actually go to mine these, you mine them both together, you separate them out at the mill. And then, if you look at any of the old mining records going back from the 80s, going, into the, essentially going back, 70 years to the early 1900s, these mines produce both metals, silver and cobalt. And some of the mines produced nickel and even copper. Now, when I say produced, I mean they got paid for it in their concentrate, most likely, because it's in some records, it's in not. There's probably nickel and copper in all of the concentrates. It's just a matter of whether or not each particular mine or company got paid for it or not. But anyway, with that being said, the width that we're seeing is very similar to any other width, and then you'll usually get some kind of halo around that will be lower grade you'll still mine, because the diluted grade is still going to be very, very highly economic to mine, but it's carried by that narrower kind of core intercept, which may be, it may be pure cobalt minerals, it could be pure silver in the case of what we hit at Campbell Crawford, or it could be a combination of the two. One thing I would say about this slide before we move on is the depth here of where we're hitting mineralization is quite extraordinary. So this particular target, it's different than what we're drilling at Campbell Crawford because we're actually above the contact here. So we're above the Nipissing diabase contact, which you can see is the orange line. So that band right at the contact would be our target horizon, where we would expect to see the best mineralization. But we actually found these cobalt-rich veins at surface here So you can see this channel sampling line 48 up at the top here. That is where we sampled stuff at surface. And then now we've got stuff that's almost 200 meters deeper, and all likely part of the same structures. So that's very exciting from the point of view of this might be one of the more continuously mineralized zones that we've hit to date, where we've got a lot of vertical extent as well as the sort of horizontal extent to this vein system.
So with an initial discovery in place, could you walk us through what a next phase program would look like at this mineralized structure?
Yeah, so obviously one of the blessings of this project is that we now have multiple discoveries, multiple projects. So obviously part of the job is that we need to prioritize, and we're drilling Campbell Crawford right now. That's still our number one priority because it's where we've had the richest and most valuable mineralization to date between the silver and some of the cobalt we've hit there as well. And we've also got quite a few structures that are all, when I say structures, I mean veins that are close together, that look very promising for, kind of having a lot of shoots, which is going to be the grade and tonnage that we need to build a really exciting resource there. So that's still our number one priority. With that being said, if we go back to Frontier, this program, or if not, maybe next year, we'd be probably looking to narrow in on some of these secondary structures. I think we've got an understanding of why we hit where we hit. And with that in mind, we can go and target more of these zones closer to the contact, where we think we can drill not only vein mineralization, narrow veins, but also these chutes which blow out and become a lot wider. And I think that's the goal. Very similar to what we did at Campbell Crawford. Just this is earlier stage right now because we just have fewer holes into it.
Now, moving on to Bethania, where I know the company has been busy ramping up production. Are you able to give our listeners a quick update from the mine site?
Yeah. So we were very excited to get the first sales of concentrate a couple weeks ago, and we're continuing to ramp up on site. The early stages of a ramp up can be very up and down, obviously, because there's a lot of different jobs happening at once, and there's mine development where you're not producing ore. There's basically stoping where you are producing ore. We're still in our case doing some rehab where we're replacing and improving the support underground, and also sometimes we have to get rid of fallen rock and stuff like that, which is just that happens when the mine's been closed for 8 years. So there's a bunch of kind of jobs that are all leading towards more of a steady state of production, which will start to happen in the next few months, where essentially our resources, and by resources I mean people, will move mostly into stoping. Now you always have to do some mine development because that's what you're doing to essentially plan for the future, but we'll get more and more stoping going as each month goes on, until we get to the 350 tons by middle next year, Q3 next year. So we're, in that sense, things are going, according to plan. And we're very excited to continue to work there and get more news and updates out into the market as things progress.
So David, to cap things off, could you give our listeners an overview of what they can look forward to from the company as you head into 2025?
Look, I think we will have one or two more announcements on Silver Kings, either late this year, or if not early in 2025. And we're still very excited with what we're seeing at the drill, and we're going to get that news out as quickly as we can. And then I think the focus will be, dominantly Bethania. We will, we'll provide the market with production updates as we can, and as material things are happening at the mine, as we get to more and more production, I think by Q2 of next year, our quarterly results are going to become material, and people will want to watch those because they'll start to see some real, kind of production and cash flow numbers coming from us. In the meantime, between now and then, we'll just try and provide some updates that give the investors comfort that things are on track. So that's really the plan there. And then, I think as you look further into 2025, I think it's important, to look at the longer term here as well, because that's really where things get exciting. We can start to put some of our mine cash flow into exploration at Bethania. As the listeners may know, we have tons and tons of unexplored veins and targets and extensions of veins that we need to explore and drill in particular. So as we do that, the growth of our resource, the potential growth of our resource at Bethania is huge, and it's frankly low risk because we're essentially drilling veins that we already know exist and are there, and it's just a matter of essentially defining the volume of mineralization and the grade. So there's a lot of really high impact but low risk exploration we can do once as we start to ramp up on the cash flow, and I think that's going to be a huge return on investment. Because with relatively little money, we can greatly increase the resource there. And of course, if we increase the resource, we should see multiple expansion. People will pay more for the cash flow that we're getting at the Bethania mine, because they know that not only are they getting, whatever, 20 million a year in EBITDA next year, but or by the time we fully ramp up to 350 tons per day next year, but that the mine can grow double or triple the size over the next 2, 3, 5 years. And that's where things get really exciting in terms of the multiple. So I mean, we're really just scratching the surface. This is a time when when I think there's a perception that there's a lot of risk, again, just because of the size of the company and the market cap, but really there's huge upside potential. I think this is a project that will be worth, in the hundreds of millions, if not, pushing $1 billion in the next 3 to 5 years. And we just have to deliver on that and get there. We're on the way now. We're in production. That's the first step. It's very exciting. As I said earlier, that's the first step on a staircase that we're on now, and we'll keep on going up.
Perfect. Thanks again for your time today, David, and we're looking forward to having you back on with additional updates very soon.
Thank you. My pleasure.